All right, so maybe you're kicking off a new project, or maybe you're just curious about how to build a truly reliable backup repository. Either way, I think we can all agree that figuring out the best way to store all of your data, well, it can be pretty daunting, right? Especially when you need to keep those backups safe and sound. Not just for the short term, but for the long haul, too. We're talking 30 days of daily backups, plus an entire year's worth of monthly snapshots.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Choosing the right storage solution is critical, especially when we're talking about terabytes of data and needing to meet those specific retention requirements.
Okay, so to tackle this, we're going to break it down into four options. We'll look at XFS, ReFS, object storage, and DPXV storage. By the end of this deep dive, you'll have a solid understanding of each one, so you can choose the absolute best fit for your own needs.
It's kind of like picking the right tool for the job, right? You wouldn't use a hammer to screw in a light bulb. Each storage option has its own unique strengths and weaknesses. Understanding those is key to making the right decision.
Exactly. So before we get lost in the details of each storage type, let's take a step back and look at the big picture for a minute. What are the key things we should be thinking about when choosing a backup repository?
Well, there are three crucial factors to consider. First up, we've got immutability. This is all about protecting your backups from accidental changes or malicious attacks. You want those backups to be rock solid, ensuring their integrity so they're always there when you need them.
Immutability. It sounds like the ultimate insurance policy for your data. But what makes a backup truly immutable?
A truly immutable backup. That's one that cannot be changed or deleted, even by an administrator with the highest level of access. This is usually achieved through specific features that are built into the storage system itself, like setting immutable flags on files at the file system level.
This is like having a digital vault with tamper-proof locks.
I like it.
What's the second factor we need to consider?
The second factor is storage optimization. This is all about making the most efficient use of your storage space. We're talking about space-saving tricks like deduplication, which eliminates redundant data and compression, which shrinks the size of your backup files without actually losing any information.
Right, because with terabytes of data, storage space can quickly become a major concern. It's all about squeezing as much value as possible out of your storage investment. What's the third piece of the puzzle?
The third factor is scalability. Your data needs room to grow. You don't want to hit a wall down the road. Scalability is about how easily a storage solution can expand so it can accommodate your future data needs.
Makes sense. You don't want to be caught off guard with a storage solution, one that can't keep up with your growing data demands. So we've got immutability, optimization, and scalability. Our three guiding stars for choosing the right backup repository. Now let's start exploring the different options. First up, XFS on Linux. This one is often mentioned when talking about secure storage. Why is that?
Well, XFS on Linux leverages those immutability features. They're built directly into the Linux file system. This means once a backup is written, it's virtually tamper-proof, even against those sophisticated cyber attacks we hear about all the time. So you can rest assured knowing your data is locked down tight.
That built-in immutability sounds really powerful.
Yeah.
Are there any situations where this level of security might be overkill, though? Or add unnecessary
Oh
complexity?
yeah, XFS on Linux does require some Linux expertise to set up and manage effectively. So if your team isn't comfortable working in a Linux environment, it might not be the most practical option.
Okay, so Linux skills are a prerequisite for XFS. What about performance? Can it handle those large backups efficiently?
Absolutely. XFS is known for its performance, especially with large files. It's designed to efficiently manage large file systems, making it well-suited for storing those hefty backups.
Excellent. And I've also heard that XFS uses a technique called block cloning to save space. Can you explain how that works?
Block cloning is a clever technique that allows you to create what are called synthetic full backups. Essentially, it's like making a copy of your data without actually copying all the bits and bytes.
That sounds incredibly efficient.
Yeah.
So instead of creating full copies of every backup, you're essentially creating pointers to existing data blocks. That must save a ton of storage space, especially with those really large backups.
You got it. And that efficiency doesn't come at the expense of data integrity either. Those synthetic backups are just as reliable as traditional full backups.
Right, so XFS on Linux, we've got built-in immutability for top-notch security, high performance for handling those large backup files, and block cloning for storage efficiency. Now let's shift gears and talk about ReFS, a Windows-based option. This one seems like a good fit for those who are more comfortable in a Windows environment.
Yeah, ReFS. which stands for Resilient File System. It's a robust option for Windows servers. It's known for its stability and ability to handle large volumes of data.
So it sounds like ReFS is a solid contender for those large data volumes we talked about. But how does it measure up to XFS in terms of security, specifically immutability?
That's where they diverge a bit. While XOS has that immutability built right into the file system, ReFS takes a different approach. It really focuses on data integrity and reliability, with features like checksumming to detect and correct data corruption.
So you're saying ReFS doesn't have that same level of tamper-proof protection? That seems like a potential vulnerability,
Here,
especially with all the cyber threats out there these days.
yeah, you're right to raise that concern. While ReFS doesn't have native immutability like XFS, you can achieve it through some additional configurations and external solutions. It just requires a bit more effort and planning.
Okay, so it's not a deal breaker, but definitely something to consider if immutability is a top priority. What about performance and storage optimization? How does ReFS stack up in those areas?
ReFS performs well, especially when dealing with large volumes of data. It's designed for stability and efficiency. And like XFS, it also supports block cloning for space-efficient backups.
So you're saying we can get those same space-saving benefits with ReFS. That's good news. All right, so ReFS. It's a stable and reliable option for Windows environments. It offers good performance and storage optimization. Immutability requires some additional steps, but it's achievable.
Mhm.
Now let's move on to something a bit different. Object storage. This one is often associated with cloud storage. Can you explain what makes object storage unique?
Sure. Object storage is all about scalability and cost-effectiveness. It's a way of storing data as objects, each with its unique identifier and metadata, which makes it ideal for storing large amounts of unstructured data, like backups.
So instead of files and folders like we're used to,
Mhm.
we're talking about objects. It sounds very different from the file systems we've discussed so far.
It is, and that difference brings some major advantages. With object storage, you can easily scale your storage capacity up or down as needed, without having to manage physical hardware. It's like having an infinitely expandable storage pool at your fingertips.
That's a game changer for organizations with rapidly growing data needs. It sounds like you're saying goodbye to the headaches of constantly upgrading your storage infrastructure. But if we're talking about storing data off-site in the cloud, what about security? Is object storage as secure as those on-premise options we discussed?
Security is always a top concern, especially when we're talking about the cloud. But rest assured, many object storage providers offer robust security measures, including encryption, access controls, and importantly, immutability features to protect your backups, so they're protected from unauthorized changes or deletion.
That's reassuring. So even though our data is living in the cloud, it's still locked down tight. But what about performance? Is retrieving data from the cloud as fast as accessing it locally?
That's where we need to consider the trade-offs. Object storage is typically optimized for durability and scalability rather than raw speed. So retrieving your data might take a bit longer compared to those high-performance block storage options like XFS and ReFS.
Okay, so speed isn't its strong suit. But for secondary backups or long-term archives where retrieval speed isn't critical, it sounds like a great option. And that cloud-based scalability is a huge plus. Now for our final contender, DPX vStor. From what I've read, this one is a bit of an all-rounder, offering both performance and immutability. What's the story behind DPX vStor?
DPX vStor is a software-defined storage solution. It's built on ZFS, a powerful file system known for its data integrity features. Think of it as a highly customizable and resilient platform, one that's designed to meet the needs of those demanding backup and recovery scenarios.
You mentioned ZFS. Can you elaborate on what makes it so special in the world of storage?
Well, ZFS is renowned for its advanced features, including checksumming for data integrity, snapshots for point-in-time recovery, and built-in RAID capabilities for redundancy.
So it's like a Swiss Army knife of storage features. How does DPX vStor leverage these ZFS capabilities to provide immutability?
One of the ways DPX vStor ensures immutability is through those ZFS snapshots. These snapshots are read-only copies of your data, and because they're immutable, they can't be altered or deleted, providing a reliable and tamper-proof backup history.
That sounds like a very robust way to protect your backups. You mentioned that DPX vStor is software-defined. What does that mean in practical terms?
It means you have a lot of flexibility in how you deploy and manage your storage. You can run DPX vStor on commodity hardware or virtual machines, tailoring it to your specific infrastructure and budget.
So it's like building your own custom storage solution. That sounds appealing for organizations that need a more tailored approach. But with all this power and flexibility, Is DPX vStore only for large enterprises or tech-savvy users?
Not at all. While DPX vStore is certainly powerful enough for demanding enterprise environments, it's also designed to be user-friendly and accessible to organizations of all sizes. Plus, it comes with professional support, so you're not left to figure things out on your own.
All right, so DPX vStores, we've got immutability through ZFS snapshots, high performance thanks to that powerful file system, and the flexibility of a software-defined solution that can be tailored to your needs. And we can't forget about that professional support, which can be a lifesaver for those who aren't storage experts. Now, before we move on, I want to touch on one more thing we've mentioned a few times, synthetic full backups. Can you remind us what makes them so efficient?
Absolutely. Synthetic full backups are a clever way to maintain a complete backup history without having to perform a full backup every time. Instead of copying all the data for each backup, a synthetic full backup only copies the changes made since the last full backup, and then references the previous full backup for the rest of the data.
So it's like creating a chain of backups, where each one builds on the previous one. That must save a ton of time and storage space compared to doing full backups every single time. I'm starting to see why storage optimization is such a big deal.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground here. Exploring the unique features and strengths of each storage option, I'm feeling a lot more informed. But I imagine it might be helpful to compare these options side by side.
You're right. It's easy to get lost in the details when we're looking at each option individually. Luckily, we have a handy table from our source material. That summarizes the key features of XFS, ReFS, object storage, and DPX vStore.
A comparison table. Perfect. Let's dive into that and see if we can draw some clear conclusions about which option might be the best fit for different scenarios. Okay, so let's take a look at this comparison table. We've got our 4 contenders across the top: XFS on Linux, ReFS on Windows, object storage dot, and DPX vStore. And down the side, we're looking at our key criteria: immutability, performance, storage optimization, scalability, and return. Recommended use cases. Yeah, this table is a great way to see how these options stack up against each other. It highlights those strengths and weaknesses of each approach so we can make more informed decisions.
Exactly. So starting with immutability, it looks like XFS and DPX vStore are leading the pack here, both offering that built-in tamper-proof protection we talked about.
Right. XFS leverages those immutable flags at the Linux file system level, while DPX vStore relies on the inherent immutability of ZFS snapshots. Both excellent choices for ensuring the integrity and security of your backups.
Okay, but what about ReFS and object storage? The table says they don't have native immutability. Does that mean they're automatically less secure?
Not necessarily. While ReFS and object storage don't have immutability baked in, they can achieve it through additional configurations or features offered by specific providers. It just requires a bit more effort to set up. Compared to XFS and DPX vStore.
Got it. So they can still provide that tamper-proof protection. It's just not as straightforward. Now let's move on to performance. It looks like XFS and DPX vStore are neck and neck again, both known for their speed and efficiency when handling those large files.
That's right. XFS is designed to handle large file systems with ease, making it a popular choice for those performance-sensitive backup scenarios. And DPX vStore, with its ZFS foundation, is no slouch either. It also boasts high performance, especially with its instant access recovery feature, which allows you to spin up a virtual machine directly from a snapshot.
Wow, instant access recovery. That sounds incredibly useful in a disaster recovery situation.
It is. Imagine being able to recover your entire system in minutes instead of hours or days. That's the power of instant access recovery.
Okay, so XFS and DPX vStore are the performance champions. What about ReFS and object storage? How do they fare in the speed department?
ReFS provides solid performance for most backup workloads, but it might not be as blazing fast as XFS or DPX vStore, especially for those really large data sets.
Yeah.
And as we discussed earlier, object storage is typically optimized for durability and scalability rather than pure speed. So retrieval times might be longer compared to those block storage options.
Got it. So performance is definitely something to keep in mind, especially if recovery time is a critical factor for your organization. Now let's talk about storage optimization, making the most of that precious storage space. It seems like all 4 options have something to offer here.
You're right. XFS and ReFS both leverage block cloning for creating those space-efficient synthetic backups we talked about. Object storage shines with its inherent scalability. You can easily add more capacity as needed without worrying about physical infrastructure. And DPX vStore utilizes a combination of deduplication and compression to minimize storage consumption, along with its space-efficient snapshot technology.
So no matter which option you choose, you've got tools at your disposal to keep those storage costs under control. All right, scalability. This is all about ensuring your storage solution can grow along with your data needs. It looks like object storage and DPX vStor are the front runners here.
Absolutely. Object storage, being cloud-based, offers virtually limitless scalability. You can expand your storage capacity on demand without having to invest in new hardware. And DPX vStor, thanks to its ZFS foundation, is also highly scalable, allowing you to add more storage as your needs evolve.
So if you're anticipating significant data growth, object storage or DPX vStor might be the way to go. What about XFS and ReFS? Are they limited in terms of scalability?
Well, XFS and ReFS, they're ultimately constrained by the physical storage capacity of the servers they reside on. So while you can certainly scale them up to a point, you might eventually hit a ceiling if your data needs grow exponentially.
Okay, that makes sense. Scalability is all about future-proofing your storage solution. So it's definitely a crucial factor to consider. Finally, let's look at the recommended use cases for each storage type. This section is helpful in providing some real-world guidance on where each option shines.
For instance, the source material recommends XFS on Linux for primary backups and environments with high security requirements. It's that perfect blend of performance, security, and efficiency, making it ideal for organizations that prioritize data protection above all else.
Sounds like a no-compromise solution for those who need that Fort Knox level of security. What about ReFS? Who would you recommend that for?
ReFS is a great fit for organizations that are heavily invested in Windows and need a reliable, stable storage solution for their backups. It's easy to set up in a Windows environment and offers decent performance, making it a solid choice for those who don't necessarily need that absolute highest level of immutability.
So XFS for security-conscious Linux users, and ReFS for those who prefer the familiarity and ease of Windows. What about object storage? What's its sweet spot?
Object storage is a natural fit for offsite backups, long-term archiving, and scenarios where you need to store massive amounts of data without breaking the bank. Its scalability and cost-effectiveness make it a compelling choice. For organizations that need a flexible and affordable storage solution,
It's like having a giant, secured, affordable warehouse in the cloud for all your data needs. And lastly, what about DPX vStor? Who should be considering this option?
DPX vStor is a versatile solution that's well-suited for organizations that need a high degree of customization and control over their storage environment. It's a great choice for managed service providers or MSPs who manage backups for multiple clients, or for IT teams that require a flexible and high-performance storage platform with professional support.
All right, so we've got our recommendations. XFS for security, ReFS for Windows ease, object storage for scalability and affordability, and DPX vStor for flexibility and advanced features. I'm feeling a lot more confident about navigating the world of backup storage now.
I'm glad to hear that. Choosing the right storage solution can feel overwhelming, but by breaking down those key considerations and comparing the options side by side, we can make more informed decisions.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a thought-provoking question. Based on something we discussed earlier, we talked a lot about security and data protection. But what about disaster recovery? Which of these storage options would you feel most confident relying on if the unthinkable happened, and you needed to recover your entire data set quickly and efficiently?
That's a great question, and it really highlights the importance of choosing a storage solution that not only protects your data, but also enables you to recover it quickly and effectively when it matters most.
It's like having a backup for your backup plan. You need to know that your chosen storage solution can handle the pressure of a full-blown disaster recovery scenario.
Exactly, and that's where factors like performance, scalability, and ease of recovery come into play.
So thinking back to our four contenders, which one stands out to you in terms of disaster recovery capabilities?
If I had to pick one based purely on recovery speed, DPX vStor with its instant access recovery feature would be my top choice. Being able to spin up a virtual machine directly from a snapshot could significantly reduce your downtime in a disaster scenario.
That instant access recovery does sound like a lifesaver, but of course the best choice for disaster recovery will always depend on the specific needs and priorities of each organization.
Absolutely. There's no one-size-fits-all answer. It's about weighing those pros and cons, considering your budget, your technical expertise, and your tolerance for downtime.
Well said. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the fundamentals of immutability and optimization to the nuances of scalability and disaster recovery. I hope you're feeling more informed and equipped to make those critical decisions about protecting your valuable data.
Me too. It's been a great deep dive into the world of backup storage.
And remember, there's no one right answer when it comes to choosing the best backup repository. It's all about finding the solution that best aligns with your organization's unique needs and priorities. So do your research. Consider those key factors we discussed. And choose wisely. Happy backup building.